Alright, and welcome to another video in my series of videos on my road to Ironman Cairns. So the race itself was actually last Sunday. Today is Wednesday and I'm back down in Brisbane now. We flew in yesterday. And before I get into a little bit on the race itself and the injury that came about during the race, I would like to thank everyone for all your messages and comments and thoughts. That was really much appreciated. So we kicked off in Palm Cove in Ironman Cairns, and that was the typical 3.8k swim. It was a rolling start swim, so it made it a little bit less stressful than the old mass start swims that we used to have back in the day. I started in the first group, which was up to 1 hour and 5. My plan was to swim around that hour to 1 hour and 5. I deliberately had only been swimming or swim training twice a week in the preparation to this race, knowing that the swim is such a small part of the Ironman. I think it's about 10% or thereof, and that I could then focus that extra session on the run, which is that 30k mark seems to be where everyone's wheels fall off, especially if they don't pace and they don't get the nutrition right. So I didn't feel too bad in the water. I swam very comfortably. There was a lot of swell. There was a little bit of white tops coming off the top of that, and there were occasions where you'd be swimming along, you'd look to the side of you and the person be a sort of an arm length away, and then the next thing you know, they'd be literally thrown on top of you. So all in all, though, it wasn't too bad. I'd say it wasn't congested, let's put it that way. So coming out of the water, I felt good. I ran through the T1 very comfortably. And why I'm pointing that out is 3 weeks prior to this race, just to give you some background, is I went out on a Friday morning and I was doing just a simple 30-minute recovery run, and my calf knotted up at about 20 minutes into that. Wasn't too bad, but it was enough to be a bit of a concern. So what I did there was the last sort of 5 minutes I walked home. I was about a K from home, so it wasn't too bad. And then I rested it completely till the Wednesday. On that Wednesday, I went out and my plan was to run 60 minutes, but if it was hurting, to pull up. So I ended up running that 60 minutes quite comfortably and no pain, no sign of anything. So roll on to the Friday of that week. And what we're doing is we're going to the end of 3 weeks to go when I'm talking here. Is the Friday I did a 60-minute sort of tempo run, so a little bit firm, upper zone 2, running at about the pace I'd expected that I would run at the Ironman itself when we did get to Cairns. So once again, no issues at all, got through the 60 minutes. I thought, okay, well, we've dodged a bullet here, the calf's good. Head into the Sunday run. So we're now getting 14 days out from the race itself. I had a 90-minute, just a zone 2 run planned for that. We're starting to sort of back off the distance and the endurance, almost heading into that taper area. About 50 minutes into that run, the calf knotted up completely, and it was, I wouldn't say I tore it or I pulled it or anything like that, but it was enough of a concern for me to call that run and say, okay, that's it, get on the phone. I ended up walking for about a K to walk it out, and rang the wife up to come and pick me up. Got home, threw it up, elevated, did the old ice and everything like that. And giving it some thought, I thought, okay, we're 14 days out from Cairns. I'm not going to lose any fitness if I don't run between now and then. I could potentially do some major damage and then not even be able to get to the race. So the decision was made. 14 days out, I decided no more running. Just swim and bike and taper in that final 14 days. So heading back into Cairns now. So obviously there was no running in that 14 days. I got to the race itself. I felt good. As I said, the swim went really well. I ended up coming out of the water in 1:07, so a little bit slower than what I'd planned on. When I looked at the watch, I wasn't overly disappointed because the conditions weren't perfect, let's put it that way. So through the change tent, grabbed the bike, everything felt good. Now when I got out wheeling the bike as we do out to the mounting line, at about 100 metres or 50, 75, 50 metres from the mounting line, that calf just went, and it was almost like someone had stabbed a knife into it, and to the point where I literally, you know, a little yelp basically, and a little bit of a hobble. Now, I ended up thinking, okay, well, let's just get on the bike and see what happens. Maybe it'll come good. You know, we all tend to think that way. I got to the first hour, it was sore, but it wasn't too bad until I stood up. Now, every time I stood up to go up a hill, once again, it felt like someone was throwing a knife into it. So got up to Mossman, turned around, came back, same thing again, especially climbing back up to the Rex Lookout. And by the time I got to that, from that Rex Lookout section through to the Ellis Beach section, which is about 15k or thereabouts, I could no longer even put any pressure on the pedals. So I made the decision there to pull up and to seek some medical advice. So I went firstly to first aid, who then referred me across from the Ellis Street feed station there, or where they're handing out the bottles and everything, to where the ambos were. So the lovely lady, the lovely ambo driver there, had one look at it and said, look, it's possibly a grade 1 or a grade 2 tear. If you do go on, you're going to be in a lot of pain for the rest of the ride. And you know, to be honest, we still had to go another 15k back down to Palm Cove, and then we were repeating that hilly section again. So it wasn't if I was just going to be on the flats for the next, you know, few hours. And the hills are where it hurt, especially when I had to stand up to climb. So I ended up taking her advice, pulled the pin, jumped in the sag wagon and got back into Cairns. So that evening, very, very sore, so really limping. Got the bike sorted the next morning on the Monday, packed everything away, and we were back on the plane to Brisbane on the Tuesday morning. So in that time, we'd managed to book in with the Sandgate Physio, and Tuesday afternoon I got into that appointment and it was confirmed that, yeah, it's a grade 2 tear, and it's going to be between 4 and 6 weeks to get that right again. But interesting enough, what he did pick up there, that the calf itself was a result of a pelvis imbalance that I hadn't even really noticed, and it, I guess, stepping up the endurance in the run, and I always say that every time you go out over 2 hours, that's where you really pick up the problems, and that was highlighted, I guess. If we look back at that Friday when it did knot up, the week prior to that on the Wednesday, because I was doing my long runs on the Wednesday, I had done a 2.5 hour run, which was my longest run this prep. So that just goes to show that, you know, sometimes you don't really see these things until you do go out in that distance. But saying that, at some point during the race itself, it would have come out anyway. So the next 2 weeks, moving forward, we're not going to be looking at any training whatsoever. I'm just going to have a complete rest for 2 weeks. And I was planning that regardless of how I went in Cairns anyway. And then we're going to jump back on the bike, just some zone 1 and zone 2 stuff, probably nothing over the hour for the first week or two, and get back in the pool thereafter. Once I know that I'm walking, probably about the 4-week mark, I'll start introduce some walk runs again, and we'll start building that up. So we're still over 100 days out from the first race of the new season, which will be the Moreton Bay Triathlon, and I think it's around the 27th of September. So we've got a bit of time up our sleeves. In this prep, I'll be focusing a little bit more on strength and conditioning as well, and trying to rectify that little bit of a pelvic imbalance, which I think that came about as a part of the crash that I had going back in April, not this April, but the previous one, which put me out of Cairns last year. So I'm going to put it down to that and say more than likely the severity of that accident actually caused that, and I never really did get it checked. I just gave myself time to heal. So anyway, that's where we're at so far. And look, once again, I just thank everyone for all the messages and everything like that. I really have been overwhelmed, and it's just been humbling, to be honest. And it just makes me appreciate the community that we have out there. So From here, guys, we're actually going camping this weekend, so I might even do a little video on that, because we're taking the old horse truck that we've converted out on a bit of a weekend away. So I'll make sure I get a few videos and share a little bit of that, and give you guys a look around how we've converted that truck to a nice camper, which we also use when we go away to races. So there's a little bit of relevance there as well. Anyway, if you've made it this far in the video, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you've subscribed, once again, thank you. If you haven't, you do know the drill. If you have any questions or comments, please throw them down below. I do get back to people. And until next time, guys, stay safe out there.